If your goal is to not end up in a nursing home, you are gonna wanna watch this. Okay, so your goal is to not end up in a nursing home. Well, I'm gonna do a whole series on movement and nutrition and all the things that will reduce your risk of having that happen to you. It'll also reduce your risk of needing disposable underwear. So hopefully I've got your attention, okay? So this particular video, I'm gonna talk about, there's 4 different body parts that tend to become a problem as we age. And so I'm going to demonstrate the movement that can make sure that body part is doing what it was designed to do as long as you're above ground, okay? Okay, so I've worked with people 100 plus. I've worked with people in nursing home settings, in home care settings, in long-term rehab settings, in outpatient clinics, in acute care in the hospital. Yeah, I've pretty much covered every area you can work in my profession. What I've seen in the older ones, the 100 plus who are still driving, cooking, shopping, cleaning, doing their own finances, doing their own laundry, I've seen something similar in those people. I've also seen those in as young as their 60s, mostly 70s, some 80s, maybe 90s, who need a walker to get around, need help, use a wheelchair. I've seen something similar in those folks as well. You want to hear what it is? Nutrition and lifestyle. Yeah. Those people who have the walkers and the wheelchairs, when I've been in their homes, their dining room tables and their kitchen counters have been covered in baked goods, sweet treats, junk food. No bowls of fruit on the counter, and most of them hated water, never drank it. And they weren't exactly big on the movement kick either. Exercise was never really their thing, or so they would tell me. The other ones, the ones 100 plus, still living life large, independent, taking care of everything on their own and having quality in their lives, guess what, those people? Bowls of fruit on the counter. They loved to drink water. They were very active their whole lives, involved in some type of sport or some type of activity that was physical, or they enjoyed exercising. So, which group do you belong in? You can switch. I don't think you want to go from the 100 plus active and quality to the needing a wheelchair or a walker, but I've worked with people. I've improved them to the point where they didn't need a wheelchair anymore, or they didn't need a walker anymore, or they even didn't need a cane anymore. Now, I'm not saying I wave a magic wand and take away all their medical conditions in, 30 days or less. But no matter where you're at, you can always do something to improve the quality of your life. It is never too late. Anything that you can achieve physically that reduces your dependency on other people improves your quality of life. I remember many, many years ago when I was in a car accident and I was on crutches, how frustrating it was because I couldn't carry a simple cup of tea from one room to another, because when you're on crutches, you can't carry a cup of tea, right? So, yeah. Okay, so let me get started on those 4 different areas. What I'm going to teach you is a way to improve or restore or maintain areas that you really need to be working well as you age so that you do not decline. The one that's most important is your power source, your hips, specifically gluteus maximus. We'll call them max. Max needs to have strength and power so that you can get out of a car without help, you can go up and down stairs, you can squat and get something out from under the sink. You can do all the things that you want to do because max is there. You can push open a heavy door. Yeah, that requires max. It's not your arm strength, right? So the best way to train max is squats. And A lot of you might be thinking, oh, I can't do squats, you know, I'll fall, it'll hurt, yada, yada. You don't want to do any movements that cause pain. So you're going to minimize the motion and you're going to use as much assistance as you need wherever your starting point is. So this is what I recommend. You use the kitchen sink to hold on to. You have a chair behind you because you need a target. You need to make sure you keep your knees back, because if we do this, now we're working the quads, and that more than likely can annoy your knees, especially if you've got any knee issues. We want to work max, so if we go back, we're loading max, and the hamstrings. So hang on to the sink, have your bottom go toward the chair, keeping the knees back. If your knees go forward, pretend you hear the game show host go, eh, right? You want your knees to stay back, and you're only going to go as low as you can go without your knees going forward. As soon as they go forward, you're done. Come back up and do your repetitions there. Wherever you're successful, that's where you do repetition. No pain, confident, and competent. Now, if you can go further, that's great, as long as your knees stay back. If you get really low, you'll feel your toes come up. You'll feel like you're going to lose your balance. That's why you want to make sure that chair is there, holding on for safety. If you don't need to hold on and you can keep your knees back, that's great. This is maintenance, right? Notice my body is folding forward to counterbalance, but I'm not just going down toward my toes like I've seen some of my patients do. I'm like, your bottom needs to get closer to the chair. Oh, but I thought I had to do, no, your bottom needs to get closer to the chair as you fold, right? It's not about touching your toes. If you've got a knee that's a little upset, try putting one foot forward. You could even try changing your foot position. Sometimes if you've got a knee that's a little upset, if you turn the toes out just slightly or turn the toes in just slightly, the knee won't complain. So play a little bit. Sometimes if your feet are wider, that'll help. But again, putting one foot forward a little bit takes the stress off that knee a little bit, and sometimes that's all you need. But no pain, okay? You can build max wherever your starting point is, okay? All right, now, another area that tends to be deficient, impaired, lacking, dysfunctional, whatever term you want to use, as we get older is the trunk, that area between the neck and the low back, T1 through T12. Okay, it's where all your ribs attach, in the front and in the back. And what happens is rotation gets lost. And it's a gradual decline. You may not even notice if you haven't done any work to maintain it. But if you struggle to look and change lanes when you're driving, or look and back up the car, or you get pain when you turn your neck, it's probably your trunk. Yeah. So, just a real simple one. Arms out in front of you, kind of like Frankenstein, unless you've got shoulder issues, then you can do this. But you want to be able to turn all the way. If you can't turn all the way, if there's pain, you'll only turn where you can turn without pain. You might notice there's a big difference turning one way versus the other way, but here's the goal. You want to be able to, if you've got full range, point behind you. My outer arm, and I'll show you this way, my outer arm, I can point directly behind me, right? I'm pointing forward, I'm pointing backward with this arm, because this arm stops, of course. The shoulder can only adduct so much across the chest. So, that said, can I do it both ways? Right? I feel like I've got a little bit more right than left. No, it's about the same. I can go further. So the goal is, can you rotate? If you can't, start somewhere. Start doing that motion. Go back and forth. Do 10 to one side as far as you can go, and then do 10 to the other side as far as you can go. Work on it. It'll improve. If you're doing it correctly and you're not causing pain, you will notice improvements. All right, two down, 2 to go. Another area, and we're going to get a twofer on this one. It's going to be one exercise to do both of them. Dorsiflexion. As we age, very often, unless we're doing something about it or we're active or whatever, we tend to lose dorsiflexion. Now, a lot of the times it's because somebody has a history of an ankle sprain, right? Or they had some type of non-weight-bearing event in their life. They had a bunionectomy, or they had hip surgery, or a knee replacement, sometime where they were really not weight-bearing very well on one of their legs. Dorsiflexion tends to get lost or decrease during those times, and unless you actively work to restore it fully, it doesn't always come back on its own. So let me show you what you can do. And first, I guess I should explain what dorsiflexion is in case you don't know. Dorsiflexion is your toes coming up and your heels staying down, okay? So what happens is, when I go to walk, I need to have good dorsiflexion. When I stand, I need good ankle positioning, or I'm going to lose my balance. I'm going to walk kind of flat-footed if I don't have good dorsiflexion. Guess what happens? How many older people have you seen walk sideways? By this I mean, in order to come forward, they step sideways. See how I'm inching forward? But I'm going sideways to do it. It's because no dorsiflexion, right? Now there's some other things. There's no rotation happening and other things like that, because you need nice rotation in your trunk for a nice healthy gait. Also, if you want to be able to walk as long as you're above ground and enjoy walking, we need these things. We need that trunk rotation. We need dorsiflexion. We also need hip extension, which is the hip opening up in the front. And if you've spent decades sitting in a chair, those hips kind of get stuck short. And guess what? When you go to get up, you're like, right? So we're going to get a twofer here. What you're going to do is you're going to work to improve dorsiflexion and hip extension at the same time. Yeah. So what you're going to do is put one foot back, keep the toes pointed forward, okay? Hang on to something in case there's any stability issues. And what you're going to do is come forward like that, keep the heel down. If you let the heel come up, you're not getting dorsiflexion, right? So you might need to minimize how far you step forward if you can't keep the heel down. But you've got to find your starting point. You're also getting extension here. If you feel a little tug on the low back, that's that psoas tugging on the low back because you're making it get longer. So no pain, okay? And what you're going to do is you're just going to rock forward and back. And if you're holding on, that'll help, right? And the goal here is to get the gastrocnemius or the calf muscle to get longer and allow dorsiflexion, and the psoas or the hip flexor to get longer and allow extension. This will radically improve your gait as well as some of your balance issues that you might have because those muscles have stiffened and you're kind of walking like this, right? So I'm hoping these movements help you. I plan on doing a whole bunch of videos on the myth of aging with decline because you don't have to. It's a lie from the pit of hell. You can keep your quality of life. So if you like these, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and watch for more.